Welcome back, guys. I'm trying to wait for it to get a little bit quiet for me to record. I am in the park, so, people love to yell. They got their dogs, ice cream trucks, everything. So I can't control my environment, but I can control my attitude about my environment. I do have my mic up, and I do have a wind guard on it, so it's going to take away most of the wind, the noise, and I'm going to try and elevate my voice so that you can hear me. I want to talk more about safety because I just realized it's really important, and a lot of you had much to say in the comments. And I started thinking about this because I was looking at pictures of high school, college, and so many mistakes that I made, so many things, so many situations could have turned really, really ugly. I just had so many people protecting me, honey. I would have to say, I got to 48 years old pretty unscathed, I've never been sexually assaulted. I've never been beat up by a man. I've never been abused by anyone besides a little bit of verbal stuff, which was very mild, and I probably had 10 times more than he did, honey. Actually, let me think about it. I have never been cussed out by a guy I was dating or anything like that. I think the voice got elevated once, honey. I talked about that in my book, Dating a Scorpio. I would say it's never happened with anybody I dated. If anything, it was a family member. Okay. It was a family member cussing me out. But I will say that, in 48 years, I have, goodness, I really slipped through the cracks. And I say that because I would say 9 out of 10 friends that I had, it has been in the opposition. Okay. And a lot of people don't talk about it. A lot of people don't talk about abuse, physical abuse. They feel stupid. They feel ashamed. I think about one time where it almost happened to me, and I knew that I would probably have blamed myself. I was like, oh, well, I put myself in this position. I knew that, and I had this conversation with myself. I was like, oh, this is a situation whereas, I would have definitely blamed myself for creating the atmosphere for that to happen. Like if I was just walking down the street, honey, then that's a whole different topic. But if I allow you in my home, but then I also had, in the same conversation I had with myself, I knew that the person wouldn't get away with it. I was like, oh, no. You don't get to live and like walk down the street freely and have fun with your friends and family. Not after that shit. Oh, we don't work like that. We don't work like that. No. So those are 2 things that I knew for a fact. And I am so appreciative that that did not happen. That did not transpire. So there's so many things in my life where I was not as protective of myself as I should have been. And even when my inner voice was like, don't do it, I kind of overrode that voice and was like, blah, 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 and it could have turned out really ugly. I gave you guys in that live stream a lot of different tips of how to listen to people when they're asking you questions and why they're asking you that. And I'm talking to my young ladies, I'm like 30 and under. Some of you may even be like this if you were sheltered, in your later years as well. So this conversation is for you. But a lot of you young women who leave me comments saying that you met somebody and you got in the bed a month later and things like that, like, besides the fact that that's just like this type of culture, which is just it's not how I grew up. You guys know, I'm Gen X, so we didn't grow up like that, even though a lot of people did participate. For the most part, my generation was different. I will say this generation, gosh, there's so many gates that are just left open, honey, for people to walk in. You guys are too trusting. You're too open. You're not protective of yourselves. And you think about the wrong things. You think about, oh, I might get pregnant. But honey, pregnancy is the last thing that I would be thinking about, okay? There's all sorts of things. You may not even wake up tomorrow. And, you know, when you talk, be careful about what you're talking about and to whom, around whom. And I will tell you this, all women are not a safe space. All women are not a safe space. Some women, you know, collaborate with men to hurt other women. Some women have been hurt themselves, and, you know, they just do really treacherous things. And they turn on you and things like that. So, you know, personal information about your family, about your relationship with your family, you know, to be just out there by yourself with no family at all who care about you, who's looking out for you. You have not created any female group, any strong type of community. That is extremely important, you know. And I know a lot of you guys are introverted like myself, and you're like, oh, I don't have any friends. That, you know, to not have anybody at all is dangerous. It's dangerous. Now, I'm an introverted person. I don't hang out with a bunch of people, but I do have relationships with individuals, you know, particularly individuals who are in a higher position in life, you know, people who have a lot of power, who know individuals, who can make things happen for me. And, you know, I make sure that I keep in touch with them. I've created a community. You know, I have a charity that I run. It's important to me. And, you know, community is really important. It's important to be looking out for each other. Even if you're not best friends with the neighbors, we look out for each other. Like in my building, I look out for my neighbors. I make sure that, you know, if they need food, I'm always dropping off food. If they need favors, I'm there, like looking out, giving them information. Oh, this was going down. That, like, we always talk about things, you know, and not just in my building, but, you know, women in the neighborhood who live by themselves, and a lot of them are older than I am. And, you know, I run every morning, I run by, we talk and things like that. So it's important to have a community, for you to create relationships, particularly with men. And they know your family, you're estranged, you got no men in your life to protect you, and you have no community of women. Oh my goodness, you're completely setting yourself up for many things to happen to you. Now, while I'm in the park right now, you know, I'm outdoors and my antennas are so up. They are like this, particularly because there are a couple of men right over there. And I can see them out of my peripherals. I don't know if they were smoking weed or whatever, but I'm always cognizant of men, especially if they're drinking or smoking or doing anything to sedate themselves. And, you know, there's individuals there, but I made sure that I'm in a space where, now I live in a safe area. I don't live where there's gunshots and stuff like that, but it doesn't matter. Things can happen to you in the most beautiful areas. I grew up in an amazing, beautiful suburban town, and I will tell you that one of the biggest murders in U.S. history happened in my town, okay, where I grew up. So, you know, a lot of things get kind of covered up. The nicer areas you live in, people don't really talk about the things too much, but they're still there. So there's a whole baseball team playing opposite camera. There's individuals here I could see behind me, and I'm a very sensitive person, so people can't just roll up on me, you know. So I make sure that wherever I go, and sometimes you want to be in quiet spaces, you're like, let me get away from everybody, but how beautiful that sounds, sometimes it can be dangerous. It's like living way out in the woods. Like, oh, I'm going to live way out in the woods, and you forget that it gets dark in the woods. You may not have any telephone, you know, signals in the woods. There's all sorts of danger that can happen way out in the woods, okay? So speaking of woods as an analogy, don't put yourself out in the woods, okay? So we talked about the dangers of conversation, and I hope that after my live stream, after this video, you're going to think differently of how you communicate with individuals, what you say to them, what information you give. Men love to ask questions. That's what they are. They love to probe and dig, but not for the reasons you think when they ask you, oh, do you want to get married? Some of you get flattered. It's just like, oh my goodness, like how difficult is it to get married? Go to City Hall, pay your $60, get your license, pay another, well, that's in New York, pay another I don't know if it's $70, to get your marriage license and certificate, so $100 something in total, and you get married. It's not a big deal. And then what, honey? Like, some of you think that's like the highest you can go in life, So when a man starts talking about that, and he knows this, he already assumes it. He assumes that you are going to be impressed with him talking about marriage, and that's going to be the gateway to what's between your legs and having you cook and do all this stuff, and you're going to go to your friends and be like, oh my gosh, she talked about marriage and da, 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 da. I remember when I was spending time in LA like 20 something years ago, my roommate at the time, who's actually, I wrote about him in my book, Dating Scorpio, he's the chapter of Aquarius, and I remember he asked me what size my ring finger was. And he was just throwing all sorts of loops. You know how Aquarius are. The Uranian have you flipping out and doing all sorts of things for shock value. But, and I remember I was mentioning something to a friend, and that just popped up. And she was like, what, girl? He asked me what size your ring finger is? I was like, she was so impressed, like stupid. Many of you guys get impressed with these things, and they know that. And they'll mention that just to kind of string you along. Like some women are with these men for 5-10 years, going through all sorts of abuse and everything, and he's still talking about her ring size finger. Girl, please. Okay, listen, if a man wants to marry you, he ain't even got to ask you. He'll know what size your ring finger is, and he'll just go buy the ring. You know what I'm saying? When men want to do things, they do it. They're action oriented. They don't sit there and like for years talk about stuff. Some of you guys you're not protective. You're not. And this is why you're in relationships for 2-3 years and ain't shit happening. You're like, I never met his mother, but you're still there for 2-3 years. Like, how are you protecting yourself? How are you, and maybe we'll talk about this in an upcoming video, because I know I got some questions about what do you do, like after you're ghosted or blah, blah, blah. Just to sit around and, allow this stuff to happen to you, shows the lack of self-awareness and the lack of self-care just from the beginning. So when I hear, situations that gone on for a year or 3, like we can just back all the way up. Like what was happening at day 1, day 2? Let's take it one day at a time and see where you were at. Never mind them. How did the killer get into your house? And I always use that analogy, and you can use that in any space. You can think about like, how did this person bamboozle me? That's the kill. You let the killer in. You open the door. How did they cheat me? How did this happen? Like you literally opened the door to all of these things for yourself, and it's because you don't feel like you need to protect yourself, but you want somebody else to protect you. Oh, he didn't protect me. Where was your protection? And I think about that too. Like back in when I was a teenager, and I'm not crapping on my younger self because I love her and she got me through the roughest of times, but when I was a teenager, I had a teenage brain. But also, not to have an excuse for myself, I didn't build up that much protection because I didn't feel that much worth. And we talk about that in my books. It's particularly lovable, my workbook. But I remember, and I talked about this, going like to his house, and it was kind of getting late at night. I don't know, it was like 7 o'clock or something like that, and his friends being there, and like somebody talking shit about me and him not protecting me. Like, I positioned myself for that. Like, number one, I shouldn't even been at his house at that late at night. I probably should have had my brother with me, or one of my brothers with me. I probably should, like, the way that I moved then should have been positioned differently, so that I created a space for others to rise to the occasion. Do you see what I'm saying? How do predators get victims? They target specific people. They do. You think they act like that with everybody? No, they don't. I have lived in 2 Caribbean islands, Central America. I've lived in other states. And I would have to say, the way that I walk and carry myself has deterred a lot of predators. They're like, oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? And I think being a dad's girl deterred a lot of predators as well. I remember there was somebody who was older, a lot of older men. When I was very young, a lot of older men. And I looked so young. Like when I was 18, I could literally pass as a 14-year-old, 13-year-old. A lot of older men used to try and get at me, and I would tell my father, honey, it was a wrap. But a lot of you guys don't have fathers. You don't have big brothers. And if you do, maybe you don't have a relationship with them. These people target you. They can smell that you are vulnerable. They know that you need protection. Sometimes they offer protection. Oh, I'm the big brother. We're friends, right? And then you confuse them fighting other men away as protection. You're like, oh, he always protects me. But that's not what he's doing. He's around you. Of course he's fighting the other men away. He wants first dibs, honey. What you think? Are you kidding me? Like, he wants to be the first entry. He don't want them dudes like, get away. He's fighting. Especially if you haven't had many relationships. Oh, honey, are you kidding? What, you think big brother? So big brother gets a hard dick when he's around you? That's not how it is with my brothers. I don't know, honey. Maybe, you know what I'm saying? Of course he's fighting other men off. He wants to be first, and he will be. He will be, because you'll get comfortable with him. A lot of you guys, you don't even have to talk about it in the comments, but I know too many scenarios. All this, we're friends, we're that, and then when you get drunk, oh, it just kind of happened. We kind of, he been plotting that shit for years. It's the slow predatory behavior. And I'm going to tell you this, predators don't look how you think they look. You think they look like some big grizzly bear who are mean, who looks funny, honey. No. The most predatorial individuals are ones that are right in your own family, people that you've known for a long time, people who've studied you. They know who you're not going to tell. They already know your family dynamic. They're like, I could get away with this. You're open to being groomed. You're open to being groomed in that way. You're vulnerable. Your gate is wide open. They're like, oh, I can get her. You know what I'm saying? But the individuals who are not open to being groomed, like me, I was a tattletale. I was a rat. I will rat you out in a minute. I will rat you out in a minute and not care. All that snitches get stitches shit. Who gonna have stitches? I'm gonna have stitches and you gonna have stitches. We both gonna be in the ER. Both of us. Because I don't leave my hands at home. So I'm a snitch. You gonna come for me to fight. And what, you gonna give me some stitches? Honey, first of all, no one in my life have ever given me stitches. And I've had fights. I've had knots on my head. I've been slammed on the ground. I think I had a busted lip once. And honey, so did the next person. Oh, they left with a black eye. They left with a busted nose. They left with a bloody nose or whatever they got. Oh yes, honey. Snitches get stitches what? What y'all talking about? Because we could both have stitches. It's not a problem. I'm a rat. I'm a snitch. I always told, like, if some grown man was trying to talk to me, I'm a tattletale. I'm telling, blah, 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 blah. They knew I had a big mouth. So they knew I wasn't the kid who was like, oh, I'm so scared to tell. No, I'm telling. I'm embarrassing every fucking body. I'm embarrassing you. I'm telling your kids. I'm telling your wife. I'm telling my dad. I'm telling everybody. I'm telling. Straight up. Okay? I'm telling on you. And I'm not afraid of shit. Let the chips fall where they may. And so while other kids were fearful, they were susceptible to being touched and things like that. Women are not that better. Not too much better than men. I want to give you a situation. A lot of women use friendship as a gateway. Women, we feel close with each other. We can sit on each other's laps. When you're in college or high school and you're drinking and shit, sometimes you share the bathroom stall and stuff like that. Like, we do things that men don't particularly feel comfortable doing. And some women who are little predators use that as an excuse. Oh, we're just friends. We're just friends, right? And I've had this happen a couple of times with women. I remember I was working on a television series, and there was a girl who was a little bit masculine, but she seemed nice. She was a Leo, by the way, if that matters. And she, the whole day she was telling me how, she liked to roll up on girls. There was a girl that she liked that never was with a woman. I think this was her thing, like trying to get with the straight women. Like it was and I had a gay male friend, the Leo. Oh my gosh, they're both Leos. The double Leo, who loved to do that too. He always slept with married men who was posing as straight. He loved that. He loved to try and get a straight man, and he would always try. Like when he was around my straight friends, he would always try and take them home to test them. He was like, oh, I'm just testing him. And he would all the time. It was his thing to get, he had sex with so many married men, honey. So many married men. So this woman, young lady, it seemed that she was trying to, she knew I was straight. She could feel that vibe. I guess, I don't know. I'm not a homosexual. If you guys feel comfortable in the comments, how do you feel that vibe, whether somebody's on the border, whether they're straight? You know what I'm saying? Because I used to, when I was younger, and actually a little bit on YouTube, some women had called me saying that they get the vibe, I may be curious and things, and I don't know if that's just their vibe trying to want me. You know what I'm saying? Their little vibe themselves, honey, trying to get some play. But I've had full-blown lesbians, they were out and about. They weren't hiding or anything. Everybody knew it, right? Trying to step to me in that way. So she was telling me, this is interesting. All day she wanted to know where I was from, where I lived, and this, that, and the other. So she's trying to get a vibe, do you live by yourself? Can I come through? That sort of thing. And then she was telling me how she met some girls or whatever, and she pushed her way in, and then she was having sex with, she was telling me her series of sex with so-called straight women or whatever. And then after she done told me all that, she was trying to let me get the digits, and I was thinking I'm not, you know what I'm saying, but then we could just hang out. It was sorry, there's a bee right here. I'm trying to be kind to this bee. Please don't sting me. Hey. Oh my gosh. Alright. Wait. Alright, it went away. So she was trying to roll up and have sex with me, get to my apartment, whatever. She even followed me after work all the way to the subway station, and I wasn't even on my way home. I was on the way to my family's house. She was like, wait, you live with your family? And I was like, I'm on my way to my family's house right now, because I was staying the weekend. So she felt stupid that she never got the chance to come and try and sleep with. What a nasty story. But she was trying to use the buddy friendship thing. Let me get them digits, we'll hang out, blah 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 blah. Guys, don't fall for that either. Do you know what I'm saying? Some women have their intentions, so they can sit there and talk about it and talk about your ass like a dog. I guess I would have been the one that she was saying about all these other girls that she had slept with. You know what I'm saying? I guess I was on her list, honey. Okay. And of course, the men who were observing that, even though they didn't want anything to do with me, they were pissed off that she had such leverage as a woman to let's hang out. Do you know what I'm saying? Well, just guys, watch out for that too. Watch the conversation in that. Watch the conversation. There was a time, I think this was back in LA as well, I met a Scorpio guy, and he was a rapper, and I can't say his name because he's actually, oh gosh, I would say he's well known, or was well known, back in the early 2000s. And so we met, and he was really, he was nice. He came to my apartment because I had roommates. I had 3 male roommates, 2 female roommates. So they invited him. It was all of us. It was a safe space, thank goodness, because everybody was over. and he was like rapping and whatever. His studio was near our apartment, and I was like, oh, cool. And he was really good, and he was telling me stories or whatever, some stories about some shit that some illegal stuff that he's done. And he was like, yo, come by my studio, you should hear me rhyme, blah 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 blah. And I was like, cool. So we're walking to his studio, and everything in my body was like, do not go. You know that feeling you get, like, if somebody's like, oh, come in the basement. As soon as I hear basement, attic, or anything like hidden, come in the cellar, it's in the cellar, come see. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no. Your body, like, tenses up. My body was tensing up so bad. It was just like, do not go in there. It's predatory. It's going to be a problem. And you know that I went against that and was like, nah, it's cool. And then when I went down there was like 3 other men that I didn't know. So it was like in a studio, 3 freaking guys. I'm not even from California, period. I'm like halfway across the world, away from my family, whatever. I'm in the studio, and I could see like one of them was like thinking about doing something. They was thinking about it, and nothing happened, thank goodness. But I positioned myself for something to happen. Do you see what I'm saying? And even if something happened, even if I was assaulted by the 3 of them, it would not have been my fault. As far as like, men shouldn't be assaulting women, or women shouldn't be assaulting it. Nobody should get assaulted, period. But I take it to the root of like, why even position yourself? Like, if I'm out in the street and somebody grabbing me out in public and I'm fighting them and something happened, that's different than like, come to my studio. And I'm like, okay. And I go into your studio, and there's 3 big ass men standing that I don't know, and they know I'm from halfway across the country. You see what I'm saying? And they know I'm from New York. They know I don't have no family out there. Don't do it, guys. Do not do it. Do not do it. I want you to have this conversation with your friends when you see them do things. I've watched my friends take all sorts of Molly pills and like fall on the damn floor at the club, and I gotta babysit them. I'm like, this is dangerous. You're doing this when I'm not around. Imagine. Okay? Imagine the situations that they put themselves in. And men are watching. They're watching you drink. They're watching to see how drunk you are. Oh, come here, I'll take you home. And you already position yourself in that car between that ride to wherever you're never going to go, and could be dumped out right on the highway while you're intoxicated. That's going to be the story. Oh, she was intoxicated. Well, she was at the bar. Why was she drinking? Which is all true. Those are questions that are really relevant. They're really relevant, and they shouldn't be excused. It shouldn't be excused that you are drinking, that you are taking pills, that you are getting in the car with somebody you don't know. None of that should be excused, okay? Violation shouldn't happen, but none of that should be excused in the midst of the story. Do you see what I'm saying, guys? A lot of you are not protective at all. Starting with the conversation, starting with your family issues and things that are going on in your family. And maybe you want to tell your best friend some stuff. That's fine. I'm not saying you can't go to your therapist and talk, or you can't tell your best friend, like, oh, I'm having problems with my dad, blah, 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 blah. I do that too, but I kind of keep it light. I don't really tell all the intricate stuff about the family. You see what I'm saying? We're not doing that. Oh, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. Because that information is out there forever. Unless that other person gets amnesia, that you done told that story, honey. You done told that. And in this day and age of people secretly recording shit and this, that, and the other, just don't, guys, please don't trust it. Do you remember this year in 2022 when I had a stalker who almost snatched me? Hang on, there's a guy to my left. Okay, he's just gonna sit there. Do you guys remember when I had that stalker in 2022 who almost snatched me in front of my apartment? this was somebody who was one of you guys who watches my channel. And so, interesting enough, people will watch you for a very long time, pick up information, find out where you live, and they have little things going on in their heads that, they'll just have little things going on. And next thing you know. All right, so I'm going to move locations, actually. I'll be right back. All right, guys, I'm just moving locations because this kid, I didn't feel safe. He had a vibe to him, and I was like, no, we're not doing that today, honey. We're not doing that. That's what we're not doing. You're not sitting next to me and just sitting there with your hoodie and shit on, looking like you about to blow up a school. We're not doing that. So while we're talking about safety, I am going to be safe. Let me wrap this up because I'm in the park and there's just too many energies going on around. And I have to watch myself too much. I'm going to go in my studio. But I want you guys to think about this. We'll keep talking about this, ask a lot of questions, and I'll see you guys soon. Like, subscribe, share, and all that good stuff. You know about my courses. You know about my books. You know about my tarot card readings on the website. If you're in New York City, you can get my books at Shanti, Quest, Choice Books and Gifts, and all that good stuff. I'll see you guys soon.